You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio. My name is James Walsh, and you're listening to us here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. If you're listening over at YouTube, please don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to our channel. We're so happy to have you guys tuning in for our third interview with the WWE Hall of Famer Madusa. She joined us first 20 years ago to talk about the fact that she was thinking about writing her book, and she was just starting to write it down, but she didn't know how it would work out with WWE owning all her photos. We next spoke as a memorial to Luna Vachon, and here we are with a much happier project, her book. And there's one segment in this I wanted to address where I made her mad because I was going to ask about how she felt about Eric Bischoff's odd story that he tells, and he's told it more than once, about ogling her on the bikes going to Sturgis. And I wanted to address that here because I could have cut that part out to make myself seem better, but that would be dishonest. I asked the question, I phrased it the way I phrased it. I'll stand by it, I'll die on that cross, if you will. But I didn't mean any disrespect by it, and I think that by the end she realized that. Or, maybe even moments later she realized I'm not that guy. So, if you were listening and you hear that part, just know that all is cool in the world of myself and the one and only Deborah Michelli, Madusa ALundra Blayze. Hope you guys enjoyed this interview. I do apologize if you hear me kind of hecking at all during the interview, because I've been battling COVID this past weekend. What a fun time that is. But I survived, and I'm still here, and I'm so glad you guys are with me on this journey. If you haven't already, don't forget to check out WrestlingEpicenter.com. Click the store button and buy something to keep us going free and clear and keep us presenting great content like this right here for free on WrestlingEpicenter.com and through our YouTube affiliate. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get to the interview with the one and only Madusa. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line is a lady who joined us almost 20 years ago, talking about, at that time, writing her book, and now it's upon us. The book is actually coming out. The woman who would be king, the WWE Hall of Famer herself, Madusa ALundra Blayze. Are you with me, ma'am?
I am with you, and thank you. What an introduction. And you shocked me. 20 years ago we spoke? Wait.
It was a little bit earlier than that. It was December of 2003. So there you go. Almost 20 years.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. That is so incredible. Full circle. Here we are. And the book finally comes to fruition. And it is published. And it came out early.
It did. I have a copy of it. I've been reading it every night before I go to sleep, and I enjoy reading this. And there's a few things in here that I did not know about you, and I've seen like videos of people walking up to wrestlers. I've been watching you since the 80s, and you know that that's not true. It is true in this case. I've been watching you that long, so it's...
Wow.
I learned things about you I never knew before, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is so amazing. The book was something in the making for 40 years, and finally it came to fruition, and thanks, to ECW Publishing. And so I am so grateful for everybody that helped me put this together. If it wasn't for John or Rezzy introducing me to ECW Press, and then with Greg Oliver helping me write the book, and he is a great fact checker, because with today's, technology and people, they want to fact check your whole life. So since I've never really been an open book, this book is like peeling back an onion. It's slow, methodical, and it's scary. It's dangerous. It's exciting. It's fulfilling. And after it was done, it was so well written, just eloquently put. However, it does speak like I do, because I'm all over the place. I am like ADHD USA. And I mean, I am. And I go from chapter A to chapter 12 back to chapter 2. But was my life. That's how I speak. That's how the book is written, and it's just it's exciting.
Very cool. And you mentioned it. This book is 40 years in the making. I know of 20 years of the making that it was going. And you had said that 20 years ago that the WWE rights, the pictures that you wanted to use and things like that, were part of the reason you thought you might run into trouble. Is that why it's taken so long for you to finally decide this is now the time to put it out there?
WWE very me. They gave us a lot of those pictures that you see in the book. They were so just helpful, and it was just amazing. I was just taken back by their generosity on that, and being able to be, affiliated and still working with WWE under a WWE Legends contract and intermittently working with them, like showing up on NXT or WWE Raw is it's exciting because I was from an era that I call the lost era, because before me you had your Moolahs and the golden era, and then then there was a great peak of you had your glamour girls and your jumping bomb angels and your Wendy Richters and Sherry Martells, and then there was my era, the lost era, and then it exploded into the Attitude Era. So, I mean, what a whirlwind.
Absolutely. And, I mean, we'll talk about that in a moment, all the changes to women's wrestling. But I guess my question would be writing the book and writing it not in a wrestling sense, but about who you are and all that stuff. I already told you there's things about there that I never knew, but was opening up and letting people in to know about the history of your family and things like that. Was that a difficult thing for you to do?
Of course. It's always difficult speaking about family or your past or something you've never shared. And if people were to go back and check out all my interviews, basically they're all the same since day one. I tell the kind of the same stories, but different words and, different enthusiasms on certain takes, but I don't know how or where or who educated me on that. But I'm glad I did that, because I'm not an open book. So for me to share all of that, it wasn't difficult. It was that I knew my book would be inspiring and motivation and, motivating, and hoping that people that want to be heard will be found, and, to help them and inspire them to do things that they thought that they couldn't. And I think with some of the stories of my personal life, some people may be able to relate to. Some people are going to be able to relate to things in relationships. Some are going to be able to relate to business. So my book isn't just just a one business deal. I'm just very colorful across the spectrum, let's say. And I just wasn't in just two major businesses, which were very male dominated back then. Right. And I found a way, I found a way every time I respectfully found a way, but I was loud, I was determined, and I wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Absolutely. And one of the other things in the book that I learned about you that I never knew before is that you're not actually from Milan.
Well, a lot of people, now that you're saying that, I don't know, I might want to have people.
Oh.
But so people are going to be surprised things that were, told, or that that you just went with because of whatever reason. And I think people should know. They should know the truth,
Absolutely. And I was excited when I got the book and I saw Greg Oliver was your co-author. He's just amazing.
God. Isn't he? I tease him all the time about his dry humor.
Absolutely. And I think he did a wonderful job with the book. And you're right. Reading the book, it's not just I'll be honest with you. My wife and I both have been reading it, and she compares it to David Lee Roth's book. She says
You're kidding me.
Where it's kind of like he's on one story, and then in the middle of one story, there's another story, but it still kind of somewhat ties in, and there you go.
Oh, yeah. It keeps you very interested. I mean, a lot of people say that, they don't want to put it down. And it's intriguing, and it's not boring by any means. I think how it was structured was perfect.
I agree. All right, so let's go back all the way to the beginning, where most of the people who would be listening to you on my show would have seen you would be the AWA. And how does a woman like yourself decide, I'm going to get involved in the crazy world of professional wrestling, especially in that time when, even though there was some, it was definitely not where it is now, where it's featured every week on TV?
I didn't. I didn't grow up to become a woman wrestler. That wasn't one of my goals. I was, putting myself through school to become a nurse, and I was approached to be in the wrestling business. And it was a hard approach because it was a hard no at first. And so I really, thought about it and did my diligence and showed up. And I mean, I was all in. Whatever I do, I'm all in. And I do it hard and I do it well. Yes.
Awesome. So one of the questions that I got submitted from our readers was they wanted me to ask you about your relationship with Paul Heyman through the years. Were you surprised to see that Paul would become the David Koresh of wrestling that he became, running the mob of ECW and become the guy that is now currently on WWE TV, the star that he is now?
Why not? I mean, Paul was someone that you knew was going to be a superstar. You knew that he had the charisma, was talented, and he loved the business. He was passionate about the business. And he actually is and was the voice, when I first met him in AWA, that truly believed in me, that helped push me as a woman in this industry. So that's why our relationship is so strong. That's why he's one of my besties. I just spoke to him today.
Awesome.
And so when I asked him, hey, how do you feel about writing the foreword to my book? He was like, I would be upset if you didn't ask me, And I would be like, well, you never assume, you never expect, you know what I mean? And it just, otherwise, you get let down sometimes. And so I just didn't want to assume. And so it was the greatest thing ever. And it's like, hey kid, have you thought of a name for the title? And I'm like, I've got two, maybe. I'm just kind of throwing them around, but nothing's fitting. And he's like, The Woman Who Would Be King. I'm like, what? He goes, that's your title. I'm
Wow.
like, wait a minute, that is freaking amazing. I love it, and it's so fitting. It's perfect. And that's how that came about. Wasn't that great?
Absolutely. That is the perfect title, too. So you're right. Maybe he is a genius. Maybe.
Oh, no, he is. He is. And, and I told him today, and I said, you know what? You are amazing, and you're talented, and you have so much to give, and you are a blessing, not only for me to call you a friend, but for you to be a mentor to so many, and for you to still be out there doing what you do and just be in the front is just historical. It's just, God, just living it now, Paul.
Very good. So reading through the book, I got to be honest, as a longtime wrestling fan, one of your ex-husbands is one of my favorite people to just pick the brain of, and unfortunately he's no longer with us. That's Eddie Gilbert. Do you think that he was as far ahead of his time in terms of his ideas for pro wrestling as many like myself think he was?
I mean, he was the one that was just beyond. He was like another Dusty. You know what I mean? And he was, I could only imagine where he would be right now if things were different. He'd probably be working with WWE as one of the bookers and agents and working alongside Paul if everything was good. You know what I mean? And that's where his brain was at. It was that scientifically put together for this business.
All right. So when I did the intro to this interview, I introduced you as both of the names that our wrestling community might know you as. I introduced you as Madusa and ALundra Blayze. Which do you prefer?
It depends. If I'm working with WWE, it's ALundra. But everyone there, Paul will just say, Deuce, get over here. If I'm over there at Raw or whatever. So a lot of people know me as Deuce. And then the newer talent, ALundra. They call me ALundra. So,
There-
I mean, yeah, it's really cool. It's the smartest thing I did was trademark that name 40 years ago.
There you go. And that's made in the USA. That's why I got to tell you, more time than I already said it about Milan, but more time than I care to admit that I said, wait, she's made in the USA, but she's born in Milan. How does that work?
No. Yeah, it'll all make sense. I kept telling people, just wait till the book comes out.
All right. So Kenny Casanova is another guy who writes books. He writes Walking on Hot Waffles is the name of his publishing company. He gave me a question. He wants to know if you dumpster dived after the Nitro when you threw out the WWF Women's title.
Not at all. No, not at all. My conversation with Eric Bischoff was, if I bring that title, if you want me to bring that title and do something with it live, I need that title back because it's not mine. It needs to go back to Vince. And sure enough, I dropped the title in the trash. That belt was right back to me, 20 seconds flat.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Eric Bischoff. You had experience with him in AWA. Did he ever tell you the story about why he enjoyed traveling to Sturgis behind you?
Well, I think I heard that. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a,
Silly story, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I know I have a nice ass, but I mean, come on.
It's a silly thing to say, but just a question about Eric Bischoff.
So why would you even ask me that then? I mean, if that's a silly question, then why even go to the sexual crap? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the problem. It's the problem. Now, I'm not bothered by it, but I'm going to make a point. But that's the problem.
I agree.
So
it's a nice
there's no substance to it. There's no meaning, and there's no reason because it doesn't benefit anybody. What it does, it puts men in a stronger position to say, hey, it's okay. It's just silly. But if I were to say, hey, gosh, his whole junk in the front was sitting just perfect on the bike seat. I mean, I would be looked at and as a, just a bad person,
Yeah.
So let's, all right.
I'm sorry.
So
yeah, I apologize.
don't be sorry. I love this. I love this because it's a great point of what I went through. So let's make that. It's a great point, and we'll definitely a great segue. On some of the crap that I had to put up with. So
Absolutely.
some of the lascivious remarks and the constant feeding is it's just detrimental to the whole women program, and it wasn't going anywhere. I was promised things. I was promised that there would be a woman's roster that we were going to build up, make this big thing, and then there was just a little bit of it. And he never even gave me the women's title. He gave me the cruiserweight title instead. I mean, where's the thinking on that? And so, I mean, there's so much more that goes with that and deeper, but right. I still choose not to share a lot of that in my book because it's just, what is it going to do? Give you 5 seconds of fame by throwing someone under the bus?
Absolutely.
Or what? So I always say, I try to take the higher road.
A lot of people talk about that, about WCW and how they had yourself and Sherry Martel, and there was a lot of females that would come in and do Saturday night tapings and things like that, but there was not ever the push that should have been for the women's division. And I guess what you just basically answered that there was never the full push for what was promised to you when you came into WCW back in '95.
No, there was not. And so even though I saw the direction it was going, and, women were coming in after me and not even wrestling and just looking, of course they were beautiful and looking like $1 million and making double that I was making. I was like, this is crazy. This is not the way it's supposed to go. Where's the respect? Here's my notice. I'm out. Right. So I retired in 2001 and got a call in '99 to join Monster Trucks.
Jam.
Joined Mike Weber. He was working with Monster Jam at the time, and he just said, "Deuce, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm out of here. I'm out of wrestling. I don't like the way the direction and how they're treating women." And I just said, "You know what? I did my time, man. I'm out. Peace out." And he's like, "You're gearhead. You ride Harleys, dirt bikes, four-wheelers." He goes, "Do you ever want to drive a monster truck?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. You're talking about those big mutters." And I'm like, no, I've never seen one really. He goes, well, if we fly you out, would you test drive? And I'm like, sure, because I never say no to, something fun and creative. And all right, I'll check it out, whatever. To me, I was just planning to retire and probably go back into nursing or whatever. And so, no, I found one of my best careers ever, and I'm an adrenaline junkie, and I'm competitive as hell. And I mean, I won 2 championships, and so, it was a great career.
I had you on last it was about 11 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, when we did a tribute to Luna Vachon just after she passed. And I told you then I had a action figure, or actually a monster truck on the shelf of Madusa, and I said I needed an action figure, and I've gotten that since then. So you got both the monster truck and the wrestling action figure on the shelf.
Well,
so
maybe you can get the doll on the monster truck or something. I don't know. Yeah, so isn't that amazing? I had to fight so hard. I've never had an action figure, but I finally got one in 2016 or 2017, after, a year or two after my Hall of Fame, and the action figure they came out with ALundra Blayze, it was amazing. I had so many compliments on that action figure. It was incredible. But I had to be in a half of a bed with Shawn Michaels' bed with my action figure. I just never understood that. It was his what was it? His hotel love thing or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, Heartbreak Hotel, I think. Yeah,
Heartbreak Hotel. My action figure box. And that's another thing. I'm just like, it just doesn't change. And so I fought very hard to even get Hot Wheels Medusa monster trucks. And so that, I worked very hard to get that, and, just pushing through, paving the way for other women, because there wasn't any women at Monster Jam. And that was my job. My job was to pave the way, to get it going and get women and little girls in the seats and standing in line and become new fans. And I did it. And I did it very, very well.
Absolutely, and that's I think your legacy is that you did things that other people weren't doing, and you really did pave the way. And that's, I think, that when they write the book on you, not the book you wrote, but they write the book on you, that's going to be your legacy, I think.
I guess I did things that other people. Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, I did. There should be a job title, and I say that often. There should be a job title called Paver for people that pave the way and get equal $1 million contracts.
There you go. So you mentioned that you were, if after wrestling you thought about going just back to nursing. Would you have been satisfied with a life like that, or is the adrenaline junkie in you that you definitely had to be involved in something competitive, that you were not going to be satisfied with a, dare I say, a normal life?
Well, pro wrestling was entertainment, and the only thing competitive about it was, how, trying to keep up with the Joneses and how big I can keep my boobs every 5 years. It was ridiculous, and I didn't like what was happening and why the choices were that. I was part of that, and I'm so glad I'm not that anymore, and I got rid of everything that was fake, and it didn't define me. I didn't need it. It was a time where I just, that's what I did. But I feel that if I was retiring from wrestling and I chose to be a nurse, I didn't know anything about monster trucks, so I don't think I would have been bored. It would have been a choice.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about it a little bit earlier in the conversation. Women's wrestling has come a long way, and there's, as we've discussed in this interview, there's still room for improvement. There's still areas where, I've often said this, we don't need to be told that a girl is attractive. We're going to notice that. And there's still a level of that in the commentary and in the sometimes even in the presentation. We're going to notice because we're guys and that's what we do, but we don't have to focus on that. We can just watch an athlete.
There's nothing wrong with a good-looking woman or a good-looking man or a woman that is absolutely fit and just rock hard, or a woman that's just curvaceous. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a little bit for everybody, but for us to focus on exactly what beauty is, instead of what, their ability and their athleticism and, what's happening and the angle. Let's talk about the story. You know what I mean? And so I think, it's slowly coming around. I mean, it was really bad back in the day, the commentary. You had your Jerry Lawlers just spewing at the mouth and about their body and oh my gosh. And I know, the comeback would be, I was a heel. Well, there was other great, great, great heel commentators that didn't need to speak that way. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Bobby Heenan comes to mind first and foremost.
Oh, Bobby's a genius. Yes.
Absolutely. So if you could come back and have one last match, and I know you've expressed interest in that a little bit here and there on Twitter, maybe just stoking the wrestling flames a little bit, who would you love to get in the ring with from any company that's out there right now?
Well, I definitely would love to have my retirement match with WWE. And because it's TV time, it's recognition. Would I like another action figure? Yes. It's business. It is absolute business. And, I got kind of an angle in my head. I'd like to have somebody that could carry my ass if I just in case I bumped my head and I forgot something for 10 seconds, they could carry me. So it would have to be somebody that was a little seasoned. And there's plenty that come to mind. You've got Natty, you've got Beth Phoenix, there's a handful of them, right? But I kind of rattled the cage with Rhea Ripley a little bit, and I said, hey, girl, you'd be a good retirement, ass beaten, really. And so she kind of said, yes, that'd be great. Oh, God, hell yeah. And I'm like, well, you bring Judgment Day, and I just might have to have Paul walk me down to the ring, and we'll have a new Dangerous Alliance.
That sounds awesome. And we'll wrap up here in just a few moments, but you are doing some work with the NWA as well. I had Mickie James on ahead of Empower. I guess that's almost 2 years ago, year and a half ago. And what a great event that was. And she sang your praises. And I know that you have a continuing relationship with the NWA. What is your thoughts on how they present wrestling and the way that they're bringing back a little bit of that old school feeling to pro wrestling?
Well, when Pat Kenny called me and said, hey, Deuce, what are you doing? I'm like, this. And he said, well, you're missing your calling. You need to work with us and become a, producer agent. And I'm like, what? So I said, all right, I'll check it out. And sure enough, a year or so later, here I am. So it's a great fit working with the guys and the girls, and it's amazing. It's a great atmosphere. It's like drama-free. There's always some things, but it's basically just in the damn makeup room where there's drama. And I don't know why that is, but it is. But there is an amazing vibe there. And the owner, Billy Corgan, is such a great guy. He's so smart. And he just blows you away by his about things that he knows, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even remember that. What? And so he's that cool, and he's my boss. I used to jam out to the Smashing Pumpkins, and here he's my boss. I love life. I love what life throws at you. You never know, and here you are, and I just working with him, it kind of brings this. Okay. And so I really, really wanted to continue. I love what he's doing, and I just hope it keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger.
All right. And I got to ask, the Hall of Fame induction speech, your one kind of stands out as one of the more impressive ones that we've seen, because it felt like it might not ever happen. And when it did happen, there was so much that went into that. And obviously you were in your element, and you were loving the fact that you were getting the adulation that you probably should have had a lot sooner. How special was it to finally get the nod from WWE for the WWE Hall of Fame?
I was never expecting it. In fact, I wrote it off completely, and I was good, and it was a big surprise, and it was a little scary walking in, not knowing what to expect. But everybody was so, loving and caring and generous and so helpful that it was night and day. And I was comfortable, and I really got to know Natty, and thank God for Natty's intro speech, because it really laid the platform for me to be able to, produce what I did as far as my speech. And it was a perfect vibe. It was perfect fit. My husband got to come home. They gave him the okay because he was deployed. He got to come home just for my speech, and it was the house rocked. They started chanting USA. Mark Henry stood up and turned around and saluted him. I thought I was going to faint. I was like, oh, my gosh, this is incredible. And, like, he is like, steal the show, baby. Go ahead, steal it. It was so good. He was in his uniform, and people loved him. And it was like, it was so organic, like unplanned. It was the best thing ever, and it was just, it made everything, the whole speech, Natty, my husband, the fans, and, you know, WWE having the, you know, fortitude to say, yeah, let's do this, you know?
Absolutely. That was amazing. And you kind of stole what was going to be my last question, which was going to be where the title for the book came from. So you already told me that Paul Heyman came up with it. So instead, I'll change it to this. What do you want when people read this book, when people pick up The Woman Who Would Be King and read it, what do you want them to be their major takeaway from your life experiences that are in that book?
I can't speak for everybody, but if there's anybody that needs to be heard, I hope they can be found by reading this book to motivate them, to inspire them, to give them hope, and know that even reading this book, we're all just so much alike in so many different ways. Some are going to resonate as, you know, with me as a child. Some are going to resonate as a teen, as a young adult. They're going to resonate going through adversities and the, you know, tragedies to triumphs. And they're going to laugh, they're going to cry, they're going to get pissed off, and they're going to come back, and they're going to be happy. And I wanted a book that was you know, at the end of the day is a feel-good book, in that I'm okay. And if I can overcome this by doing it on my own, there is strength out there by not choosing the wrong path, and that not getting caught up with all of the noise around you and all the ruckus and all the people telling you what to do. You've got to find that space to be alone, to make those decisions. You're always going to have that soundboard of that best friend or that spouse, but at the end of the day, it's going to be your choice. We are a product of our environment. We are a product of our choices in life. We can say yes and we can say no. And I am just that.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, I can't wait to finish reading this book. I got it just a couple of days ago in the mail. Like I said, you know, somebody who was writing this 20 years ago, I wanted to read it then. I still want to read it now. It's amazing what you've achieved, and thank you for putting it out there. Yep, this is just book one, right? There's another one for the next chapter.
I can write a book on every chapter, trust me.
That sounds great. All right, before I let you go, do you mind if I ask for a little favor from you?
What's that?
So I've got an old one from you. I got one from many years ago, but do you mind if I ask for a station ID, just saying this is, whether you want to say Madusa or ALundra Blayze, whichever you prefer, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
Is it Epic or just Epa?
Epicenter.
Epicenter, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'll count you down in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey everyone, this is Madusa, Madusa, and you are listening to the Epicenter.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I hope I didn't tick you off. I was just trying to make an icebreaker earlier.
Oh, no, but that was great, because it needs to be, the more that it's, you know, like in conversations, you didn't do anything wrong. You were just, do you understand the way we are programmed? So you asked me that question because it was funny and it was this and that. And thank God I'm a laid back, cool person that don't get bothered by that shit. And I don't. But I wanted to make it a point where this is the problem, where people, you know, if he can say that.
Mm-hmm. And that's partially why I asked, because it jumped out at me when he said it. Yeah.
And just put it out there. And it's funny. There's still something wrong in our system. You know what I mean? I don't go around saying that shit about him. Agreed. You know what I mean? Or anybody. That's very disrespectful to my husband.
Right, I agree with that entirely.
There's nothing wrong with saying, Eric was a good-looking guy, when he was younger in AWA, and that's all that needs to be said.
Coolest hair, the coolest hair he had. I wish I had hair like that. Yes,
the coolest hair. Yeah, absolutely.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, rush.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly the Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
Yo, maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Maniacs runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey guys, we had a lovely conversation.
First lady, absolutely.
Oh, look at me. She's so kooky. Hi.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive
Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling
Epicenter.
Oh my God! You win! Wow, being interactive.
Wow. I was not shooting. Yeah, I almost missed my pants. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. Let's go. Excuse my language. Getting over the shot. Plenty of no. We're into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. Woo! What it's all about. The purest point of the living legend. Arrogant.
You're listening to me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So gladly without you.
Yeah.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates chaos. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire. I'm not
We were sexy.
What a show.
The one and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business and ballet. We are huge with this whole. You're where it's at. You gotta recognize you're the best. Make sure to tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer, knock down your door, and turn it on for you. Or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line.
Have a nice day.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.